would you do if you run completely out of cash? What would you do if you wanna cut a dash? Polish up the shoes, throw on something fine. We don't talk about diesels, I'm running on style this time. Cruising down the boulevard, wheels gleam in the night. Beige leather interior, looking chic alright. Money's a little tight, but I'm feeling brand new. Living large tonight, no budget reviews. Blues! What do you mean I'm not getting paid for this?
Right viewers, once again we find ourselves looking at a Rover 75. I don't normally film too many of these on my channel because I've filmed a lot already, and they are a car with which I have a bit of an interesting relationship. So a lot of people say I should buy one of these, and I've driven quite a few of them over the course of many years. I've owned 9 Rovers in total. The last one was a 2003 45 2-litre V6 Connoisseur, so I'm very familiar with the engine that's in this car because it's almost identical to the one in the old 45 I used to own. But I've never really got on with the 75 as much as I have with the 45, of which I've owned 2. So these were introduced at a big launch event in 1998. It didn't go very well because the boss of BMW at the time said that the UK government needed to step in and basically subsidise Rover's activities because they were losing so much money, which kind of overshadowed the launch of this brand new car, but wasn't actually based really on any previous car. The platform is perhaps a bit similar to contemporary BMWs, but it is its own thing. Obviously, when they introduced the rear-wheel drive versions of this car with a V8 engine in 2003 under the completely separate MG Rover company, the way this car had been set up, supposedly like to almost accept a rear-wheel drive transmission layout at some point, meant that was possible to do. Obviously they're front-wheel drive and transverse engine normally, but yeah, they're not actually based on like a 5 Series. A lot of the electronics and things like that, some of the engines that we can't talk about, and some other bits are BMW bits, like the controls for the electric seats, for example, are BMW. A lot of the electrics are BMW, but this was really quite a lot of its own thing. Code name R40 back in the day. So sadly production of these finished in 2005 along with everything else at MG Rover due to the insolvency of the company. But the rights to the car were bought by 2 different companies, Nanjing Automotive and Shanghai Automotive, eventually merged in about 2007, and so you had 2 different Chinese versions of this car made under the Rover brand, which was SAIC, and the Nanjing brand used MG. So I think 2016 was the last time that these cars were actually made. So you can get sort of later bits for these if you want to change them or whatever. And also the MG6 that came out in this country in 2011 used a Rover 75 front subframe. So there are some bits that were made a little bit later if you want to maybe change the engine to these, which you can do if you want to, or you can leave them as this car is pretty much standard. So very handsome design, I think. There's nothing wrong with the styling of the car. It obviously looks very old-fashioned for 98 and 99 when the car was launched. This is an early Longbridge built car. They were built in Cowley until the year 2000 when MG Rover actually was formed as a company, and they bought most of the rights to make the cars from BMW. Obviously it's a bit more complicated than that, but production was moved from Cowley, where they then made the new Mini to Longbridge. So this car has got body coloured sills, not black sills. It's got one of the earlier engines in it. This is a 2-litre V6 producing 148 horsepower, which was also in my 45 V6, although in 2002 this engine was replaced with a 1.8 turbo that was more kind of conducive to company carb regulations at the time. Let's have a look at the boot first. To get in the boot, you can either pop the release inside the car, or you can use the one on here if it's actually there. For some reason it's not there on this particular key fob. You can just put the key in if you want to to lift it up. The paint is not perfect on this car. There's a little bit of lack appeal, but it's generally pretty good. The rust on this car has also been addressed. I'll show you a little bit where one of the common rust spots is for one of these. The family owned this car for many years, really looked after it, and you can see we've got a nice boot liner here, branded boot liner. Just lift all these carpets up and get underneath the floor so we can have a look at the spare. There we go, there's the spare. You see we can definitely have a full size one in there if we wanted to. Nothing really wrong with the size of boot, it's just it's a little bit shallow. If you really want big boot space, you can go for the Tourer, which is the last Top 75 I reviewed in 2023. But it's not too bad. It's not quite as big in terms of the overall volume as you'd think. It's a little bit on the shallow side. So this is a Connoisseur SE model. We got the nice chrome mirror caps on this, and these sort of very kind of traditional looking wheels. But I'd personally fit more exciting wheels to this car if I had it. There are lots of designs to choose from. So this is what's called a personal line interior. Before MG Rover actually really had any influence on these cars, they had things like these little badges on the C-pillars. They had these little torpedo badges down here telling you the engine size. Those were removed as it's called Product Drive to try to cut costs at MG Rover beginning in 2001, and it didn't really work very well. It just meant that people noticed that there were some changes on the cars and they weren't necessarily for the better. But this is a pre-Project Drive car, so everything is still intact as it would have been originally designed. There's not actually the most space in it. You can go for a 75 Van Implar if you want, which is the sort of limousine model. This is a standard one. It's okay. Headlining of this car is actually brilliant. It's been replaced. It's a very common fault on these. Also, the door cards are good in the back. That's another thing that tends to happen with them. Materials are pretty nice actually most of the time in here. We've got soft touch door tops. We've got these interesting mat pockets. We've got cigarette lighter in there. It's you got sort of, ooh, it's damped, very nice. We've got damped grab panels as well, yep, damped grab panels and some vents. We've got some cup holders down here actually. They work in this car. Oh, there we go, they do work. A little bit stiff, but they are. There we go, perfect. There's the original supplying dealer from Dotton Foreshadow. I went with a Land Rover key fob, but I was going to Rover one, so that's fitted both. And we've got a massive centre armrest here. Which is stock. Oh, there we go. It actually comes in these two bits, so if we can get this to come out forward, yes, there we go. There's also a ski hatch in there if you want to load through long items. So yeah, it's good. We've got two cup holders and a biro holder there as well. It's a very big armrest. I'm not sure if you were in the middle, but you particularly like it. Just you've got this big transmission tunnel. Maybe this is a front wheel drive car. Only the V8 models were rear wheel drive. That's probably going to eat into passenger space, but you know, you don't really want to carry loads of people at the back of here. There's two very comfortable and very relaxed people on either side, not necessarily in the middle. The interior lights in these cars always struck me being really weird, so that's a bit weird with this dome shape. Is that working? Maybe it's not working. No. Then that one in there, which I'll look at in a second. So yeah, headlights been sorted in here. The materials are pretty good, especially because it was one of the earlier cars. I've said it's before they started cost cutting to a ridiculous degree in these. I suppose we'll be nice and relaxed in the front as well. So Rover at the time had this program like the Land Rover autobiography program called Personal Line. So this is a personal line interior in here, and with these lovely carpets and these mats. It's very nice. This particular car has a 4-button console down here. We've got an electric blind. We've also got a CD changer in here, but that doesn't actually have a cartridge in it, so it's a bit useless, which means we can't put the secret mission documents in the glove box, because the glove box is taken up with a broken CD changer. Never mind. So there's that funny interior light there. I've also been doing some archaeology in here, and we found some cassettes. We found The Legend of Bobby Darin and Peter Allen, I Could Have Been a Sailor from 1979, and also Queen live at Wembley 86. Yes, I love a bit of archaeology, viewers. So we've got this stereo in here. What's really annoying about this stereo is that it's a little bit sort of weird looking, but also huge space here that doesn't do anything. This is for display. That's where you put the cassettes in. Volume knob, that's fine. We've actually got volume controls on the steering wheel too, which is fantastic. But we've got this big ugly thing here that just doesn't look great. I don't know why they decided to design it like that. You can take these out and put a more modern Android head unit in, but because James, who owns this car, is going for originality, as much as possible, he's left this in, which is fine. Nice big door bins, again, soft touch materials. Very strange, I've always thought. Electric window and mirror switches on these, not necessarily the most conventional ones. Very conventional light control just here, and then these interesting kind of rounded stalks, which I think are unique to a 75, like these dials, which were one of the big talking points of the car when it was launched in early '99. They went on sale in this country, and when people started driving them, these dials, which I think are one of the main features of the car, along with this big sort of slab of timber up here, which just defined the character of the inside of it, which set it apart from all the other contemporaries, was things like this. And yes, it's more appealing perhaps to an older demographic, even at the time that was the case, but it really gives the car a real sense of unique character, and that's why these days people love them. So this car's actually had a modification done to it, where the display at the top, which is not really used for an awful lot in the standard cars, has had a trip computer built into it. And we have 28.8 miles per gallon from this 2-litre V6, which isn't too bad. It's not greatly economical, this. Average speed limit, yep. Excellent. So yeah, we've got the cruise control in here. Does this blind thing work? Oh yeah. Yes, viewers. We like a bit of luxury on this channel, don't we? There we go. Yes. Superb. Nice and comfortable. We've got an analog clock in the middle of here. I mean, what more is it that you need in life? Let's have a look at the engine. I was going to do that, viewers, and I noticed that we've got a welding patch down here. Now, this is one of the areas you need to watch on these cars, is the sills. Yeah, they don't necessarily last the longest. This car, when it was recommissioned a few years ago, had these patches done on it. So we'll go around to the front and open up the bonnet and have a look at this glorious KV6 engine. So the KV6 engine, in this case 2-litre form, developing 148 horsepower. These do have a few problems. One of them is that because of the crash structure on the front of the car, which was really, by the time this one was made in 2001, very, very important in terms of getting, you know, the nice 4 or 5 star Euro NCAP safety rating. The engine is much more cramped in here than it is in the smaller 45 V6, which is a design that dates back to the 1990s. So if you want to change the spark plugs in here, it's very, very difficult, particularly the rear ones, unless you perform what's called the spy hole mod on this, so that you can get to the rear ones. And this engine has 3 cam belts, yep, 3 cam belts, which need to be changed every 6 years. And a lot of the time on these cars, because we didn't necessarily do the most mileage, a lot of them were in the hands of people who were a bit older, it means that one of the things you might have to budget for in a KV6 is to do the cam belts, and that's going to cost you at least £600. The other thing that goes wrong with these cars, and it's something that went wrong on my own 45 V6 in 2020, was the thermostat housing. Now, Discount and Rover Spares, who are friends of the channel, do sell a modified thermostat housing called the Kaiser thermostat housing for these, and I would recommend, if you've got a KV6 engine Rover, that you go for that modification, because I had 2 of them blow out on me before I put that in, and after that, no more problems. Other thing that go wrong with this engine is this thing at the top here. It's the intake manifold, and they actually have a variable intake system in here, which adds a little bit of power and torque, but they have plastic kind of bits on them which go wrong and they make a horrible noise. So I had my intake manifold changed for a good second-hand one, and that cost me, I think, about £200 or something like that for the new one. It's called the non-fatal rattle of death or something. It's a horrible plasticky noise, so that could go wrong with these as well. But yeah, this car's in great condition now, and it's been done up and recommissioned. So it remains just to get this out on the road and me to stop whittering about, I don't know, things that aren't very important. Right, viewers, off we go. So, because this wheel's got telescopic adjustment, and we've got electric seat adjustment, and we've got heated seats in this particular Connoisseur C model, it does feel very, very nice and comfortable. Base engine in one of these was a 1.8 K series engine, yes, the good old K series engine, 118 horsepower. Later in 2002, you could get a 1.8 turbo version of about 148 horsepower, which replaced this 2-litre V6. So 2-litre V6 was one of the launch engines, and because of emissions regulations and I think company car tax and things like that, they decided to replace it in 2002 with the 1.8 turbo. Although you could still get that 2-litre engine in the 45 V6 until 2004. Above that, there was the beautiful 2.5 litre V6 with 177 horsepower. That is probably the engine most people think of when they think of 75 V6 rather than 2 litre. Later on in 2003, before the car was facelifted, the 4.6 V8 was introduced with 256 horsepower, and on the 75s it was exclusively available with an automatic gearbox. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. As always, the impression of driving a 75, obviously I've driven lots of 75s and ZTs, is one of real sort of comfort and not feeling particularly bothered by the pace of modern life. Now this car will do perfectly reasonable speed, and it's not actually as slow as you'd think. It is a heavy car, but it's perfectly fine for the sort of driving that the average Rover 75 owner will be doing. And you're just not going to care in the world as long as your car's locked together and it's not got rust and you've done those cam belts, and you can just sort of keep going and imagine life like it was back in the day. Very soft suspension, and not the most dynamic car drive, lots of body roll, nevertheless very pleasant and agreeable. And it just depends what you want really. If you are the sort of person who likes handling and likes a sharp feel to a car, Rover 75 is not for you. Perhaps a ZT would be, because they are a bit firmer and they share virtually all the components with a 75. I personally prefer the old 45 V6 I used to have. The same engine as this. It's quite a similar gearbox, although these 45s have a sport mode on this gearbox, so like a manual mode, with this has just got a standard 5-speed auto setup. I just find those a bit better to drive, they're a little bit easier to work on than one of these. Although I understand the appeal of them, I don't think just I'd buy one of these. I just be concerned something's going to go wrong, electronics can go wrong, fuel gauges can go wrong, rust. You know, with the old K series engines, you've got head gasket issues and things like that. I think I would just prefer to stick with the 45, even a 4-cylinder one. But I do appreciate these because they're just they're nice. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment below, and we shall see you again soon for some more inexpensive motoring.